Hello and welcome to round 10 of my team career mode. We're here today for the French Grand Prix at Circuit de Paul Ricard. No upgrades coming this weekend, none on the chassis, none on the aero, none on the engine. Just going to go flat out racing round this lovely French circuit. Bit boring from the real life, but we can hope that there's going to be a little bit more action inside of the game. Looking at the comparing charts, we are quite high up in the engine, we're very low down in the aero, and quite low down in the chassis too. And there's going to be two DRS straights and one down the Mi-style straight, which is very long, and then you go brake hard into a chicane midway through it, and then there's a continuation to it after that. And looking at the lovely French circuit now, the lovely blue disgusting lines all over the track, and it's going to be a good one this weekend, and hopefully I can get another one out from Austria today, but it's going to be a little bit more down to time. And now looking at the qualifying, we're going through the last sector now, and we look pretty comfortable, but then in the last sector we kind of mucked it up, and we're going to cross the line and set a 129.8, I believe. Yes, it's a 129.8. Now moving on to the second time, we improved by a lot, and we're about half a second up on our previous best lap. And then into the last corner, we clip the curb, which you don't really want to do, and now exiting the final corner, it's going to be a 129.3, which is a pretty good lap time, and that is going to be enough to get us through into Q2, which is probably pretty rare for this car usually, but it doesn't matter, we're going to take a grid penalty anyway. And actually that is going to be the end of our qualifying, because we're not really going to set a time in the second qualifying session, because it was raining first of all, and I have a dry setup on, and the start of the race will be on the wet compound tyres, or at least it will be wet, if not intermediates, or it could even be dries, as there's not a very long period of the rain. And now looking at the results, we got P10 and Wan Yu got P20, which isn't too bad. We're ahead of both Williams, which is about where we should be, but I was expecting him to make some inroads. And looking at the last sector of the first lap, which is going to be was going to be our only lap in the second qualifying session, it's gone wrong and we spun, which is a bit unfortunate, but things happen, and we're now going to look at the results. We do only get P16, but it's not going to matter anyway, because we are going to basically lose the positions completely. And yeah, that's pretty much it for the qualifying session. As you can see, the top 10 all got through, no worries at all. And the top 6 teams, unfortunately none of them were knocked out in the qualifying session, but I'm going to see what we can do in the race now. I want to see if we can maybe get in the top 10. That is pretty much our aim, as the wet tyres are going to mix the race up a little bit at the start, and hopefully we can go on superior strategy. Let's see what we can do on the French Grand Prix circuit on the Sunday afternoon for the race.
Host of the world famous Tour de France. But we're not talking 2 wheels today, we're talking 4, in a country widely thought of as giving birth to the art of motor racing back in the late 1800s. We've come a long way since then, and you're about to find out how far. It's time for the French Grand Prix. We have 15 corners here at the Circuit Paul Ricard, 6 to the left and 9 to the right. The rain is coming down and making for a slippery racing surface, but luckily there is plenty of runoff available, and hopefully we'll be able to avoid bringing out a safety car during today's Grand Prix. Joining us today to oversee all the thrills and spills, it's Anthony Davidson. And great to see you. How are you feeling about the race today, and how are the circuit conditions from what you've seen?
Well, the surface looks clean enough, but I'm a little bit worried about the track temperature. It's pretty cool out there, which could give some teams difficulties when it comes to keeping their tyres in the right operating window. The cars out there that work their tyres hard and really put a lot of energy through them, they'll be the ones that are better off.
Before we begin, let's take a quick look at the grid lineup for today's race. Good job yesterday from Valtteri Bottas. The fence starts from pole position, and Lewis Hamilton completes the front row. As we continue through the rest of the grid today, we have Vettel, Leclerc, Max Verstappen and Sainz, Norris, Giovinazzi, Ricciardo and Sergio Perez, Stroll, Kvyat, Kimi Raikkonen and Albon, Gasly, Magnussen, Esteban Ocon, they'll be starting further back after an earlier grid penalty. And George Russell, Latifi, Joe, Grosjean and Stevens. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out. Then let's see who can prevail today.
This is our engine supplier's home Grand Prix. Let's give them a race worth watching.
I will try my best, Jeff, to make the Renault team proud at their home Grand Prix. We're going to do a one-stop strategy as we are starting on the dry compound tyres rather than the intermediates. Even though it's still raining, we will struggle a little bit at the start of the race. We're obviously going to go medium hard, which is, I think, the better strategy rather than soft medium. I think that's just my preference, and it doesn't look like many of the drivers around us are going to do it, so we might as well try our best, try an alternate strategy. We're starting from the back, nothing to lose, we're just going to go for it, flat out racing, and we can try and get in the points at least. That will be our aim, and we're going to start the Grand Prix now. We have 1 light, we have 2 lights, we have 3 lights, we have 4 lights, we have 5 lights, and it's lights out and away we go. We get a pretty rubbish start, and then we just lose a lot of traction on the start of the race, which is a bit unfortunate. I was expecting maybe to gain a couple of positions, but it doesn't look like we're quite going to get it. Zhou also got a penalty, so not great at the start, and Latifi is actually getting pushed out by Grosjean now, and we're going to try and dive bomb them into the chicane. We are going to do that. We're going to get past the Renault driver of Esteban Ocon as well, and now trying to go around the outside of our teammate, and we're going to make a massive dive bomb into the sort of hairpin corner, and we clip the rear end of Raikkonen, but luckily we get away with it with no rear wing damage, or front wing damage rather. And now going down the Mistral straight, it looks like the top guys just have pulled out a bit of a gap, and now we've got George Russell right side by side, so we're going to use overtake mode, and he's going to fall back again into the clutches of Gasly. And now moving into the chicane, we just about give Russell enough room, and Magnussen actually goes through, which is a bit unfortunate as Magnussen is pretty much always quicker, but it doesn't matter, we can still carry on, and we're in P15 with a better strategy. Albon also got a grid penalty, so he was in P14 and he's kept his position so far. We get a little bit out of shape going through what should be a flat out right hander, but because of the rain it's not quite doing that. And as you can see, it's raining quite hard, but the circuit's just not getting damp enough to go onto the intermediate tyres. And we're going to move on to lap 2 now, and it's going to be interesting to see whether we can catch up to Raikkonen, or Magnussen's going to overtake us. We're not into this chicane, he's a bit too far behind, he's still about 10th behind, and now we do gain out of here a little bit. But we did get a bit of understeer coming out of the chicane, but not enough to warrant Magnussen to give position basically. And yeah, it's pretty successful start. We've gained 7 positions as we get a bit out of shape again going through the flat out right hander. We're just trying our best to take it as flat as possible, but it doesn't look like it's quite working out for us. Now moving on to lap 5, we're setting pretty good lap times now, and the rain is just about starting to ease off completely now. And as you can see, the rain on our monitor is stopped completely almost, and Magnussen's not going to overtake us into here. We're going to try and defend our best until everyone pits, which is going to be in a few laps time, because the soft tyres don't really go much longer than this, so they could be pitting anytime soon. Moving on to lap 7, and it seems like a few people are in the pits. In fact, we're up into P10. Albon's pitted. I don't know, Albon has not pitted yet, even though he's on the soft tyre, so maybe the Red Bull looking after its tyres a little bit better, even though it looks like Verstappen and Vettel both pitted, and Bottas are actually going to come out ahead of the race leader basically, or the provisional race leader, which means because we're on the alternate strategy, we are going to have track position, or we might even take the lead of the Grand Prix, except for when we probably won't, because Bottas will get us down the back straight because of that Mercedes straight line speed, and it's just too good in the corners for our car to contend with rear with. And now moving down the back straight now, and we're going to get overtaken by Bottas, which is going to be, not disappointing, because we kind of expect it at this early stage of the season. In fact, we're probably not going to battle with him until until at least next season, if not season 3. So we're just going to let him by, maybe get a little bit of slipstream going down this back straight. It'll be nice to see if we can sort of take advantage of as much slipstream as possible. We are actually going up on our previous best time, and let's see what our previous best is. A 34.4 is not a great lap from us. We could do a lot better than that, and we are actually on for an improvement anyway, so it's looking pretty good. I am using the dreaded racing line around here because I just couldn't get to grips with this track, and I'm trying to upload very quickly and try and upload at least once a day. Otherwise, you know, there's not much point. But we're moving on to lap 12 now. I kind of forgot that I was pitting this lap, but you know, luckily I just about caught it, and no penalty for me, because usually it sometimes gives you at least a warning, if not a 5-second penalty, something like that, which is unfair most times, but you can kind of understand it because it's just simply cutting across to the pit lane. But we are going to enter the pit lanes, and this is what the boys are for. They're going to do a monster pit stop, 1.8, the world record, and that is fantastic from the boys, and that's really helped us get a little bit more of a gap on Ocon. And we're going to come out ahead of George Russell here, who is on the alternate strategy and hasn't pitted, or he has pitted once, I believe, and that's not bad. So we can just pull away from him pretty much straight away. He's not quite got in the DRS window, so yeah, we could be up there by the end of this Grand Prix. We are in P15 at this moment in time, but I expect to be at least in the top 10 towards when everyone pits. And we're going to move on to lap 16 now, where we've got a few drivers in the pits. In fact, everyone has now pitted for their second stop, and Leclerc is right up our arse now, and he's going to overtake us down the back straight probably, if not in this final sector, sorry, the first sector, where he's not quite got enough of a he's not going to quite make the overtake into this sector, which is not bad but not good, because we kind of want DRS, as Sainz is going to catch us very quickly in this Grand Prix, and we're going to be under attack from him at the end of this race, where we're going to be pitting. Norris is actually yet to pit still, so we are going to gain one more position, and we'll be P6 by the time this is finished, because Leclerc has just overtaken us, and he'll be catching up to, I believe, Hamilton and Verstappen, who's yet to pit as well. And now moving into the middle sector, and in fact we're going to move on to the final sector now, and it's looking pretty comfortable at this moment in time. We have improved our lap a little bit by about 1.4 seconds, which isn't too bad. Moving on to lap 21 now, where we are about 5 seconds ahead of Sainz, so he's catching up quickly, and it's going to be a bit of a mystery to see if he can catch up to us by the end of this Grand Prix, and hopefully obviously he can't, but it's looking like it might be an inevitability towards the end of this race. At least I think he's going to give him 2 laps probably, but this first chicane, we really nailed it towards the end of this race, and as you can see in the top left corner we gained a bit of time on him. And now to lap 24, he hasn't actually bridged the gap. In fact, we've extended it by a tiny amount, and where it's now up to 5.5 seconds, and yeah, I think we've steadied the gap, and it's looking like we could get a P6 in this Grand Prix from an alternate strategy. The one stop has really worked a treat around here, and I can't thank the team enough for having these great tyres, which really last to the end. So clearly the chassis is working, at least around here anyway. The tyre wear isn't that bad, and we do go a little bit wide there, but maybe it's because we're on the final lap of the Grand Prix now, and we're going to take P6 in this Grand Prix. It's going to be a fantastic job from the team. P6 for the HRT, and their best performance after coming back on F1 2020.
Take care of the car on the way in.
Another superb French Grand Prix comes to an end, and it's a thoroughly deserved victory. Anthony Davidson, a resounding victory today. What set them apart from the rest?
Well, they certainly stood out as a drive with tons of confidence on the track. I think their ability to keep their cool, even during some of the more hectic parts of the race, meant they were able to capitalise on the mistakes of other drivers, giving them the opportunity to make their way to the top spot with ease.
So after a magnificent race, we can now see the drivers making their way to the podium. Once again, it's the Silver Arrows who take top spot. A well-earned victory for Mercedes. So, let's review the drivers' standings. Well, the gap at the top of the championship has been cut down after a difficult race today for our championship leader. Now, let's discuss, Ants. Who would you say is a contender for driver of the day?
I have to give it to Stevens. That was a commanding performance today. Very impressive indeed.
It's time to check out the constructors' standings. Mercedes continue to extend their lead. Meanwhile, good work from the owner-drivers team this weekend, who pushed themselves further up the order. It's been an absolutely wild weekend of Formula One action. I can't wait to see what's next.
So, Valtteri Bottas gets the fastest lap and gets the win at the same time. Vettel P2, Hamilton rounds off the podium, Leclerc P4, Verstappen P5, we get P6, Sainz P7, Perez P8, Lando Norris P9, Esteban Ocon P10, Daniel Kvyat and the AlphaTauri in P11, Raikkonen P12, Albon P13, Lance Stroll P14, Giovinazzi P15, Gasly P16, Grosjean P17, George Russell P18, and surprisingly that Albon's that far down. And as you can see, Magnussen gets P19 with our teammate, I believe, getting P20 ahead of one driver, which is Nicolas Latifi, and of course Daniel Ricciardo, the only DNF in this race. Not a bad race at all for us. P6 is obviously the best result we've got after coming back from F1 2012. So yeah, I'm really happy with the performance, and the one-stop worked a treat, as you can see with Esteban Ocon as well. He started towards the back and he's still got a point. We are now P9 in the championship and 28 large points, and with best of the rest, we're third in best of the rest, and we've obviously got both the Mercedes, both the Ferraris, then both the Red Bulls. And if you guys did enjoy today's episode, please press the like button, subscribe if you're new, and yeah, see you guys for some more content in the future. Goodbye.